Hello and welcome back to my channel. It has finally stopped raining, so I have taken this opportunity to come out into the garden and do a job that has desperately needed doing for ages, and that is doing something about my tomatoes. I managed to do this to one cordon over there, where I just need to make sure that it's all properly tied in and that any excess leaves have been cut off, so that the plant will just focus all its energy on ripening the tomatoes in sort of the last few weeks that we can get away with having tomatoes outside. That's what I'm going to do. Of course, most gardeners would have been keeping up with this job all through the season, and won't have such a massive amount of work to do now to get tomatoes to ripen, but that is not how my summer went. In fact, it's not how really any of my summers go, which is why I normally end up just growing bush varieties. If you do get them early enough, any of these side shoots that you pull out, you can repot and root as cuttings and get a whole bunch of extra tomatoes off of your original seed, which is very cool in my opinion, but not something that I have yet managed to accomplish in my gardening life. Got loads of grass growing in here as well, which I'm slowly trying to get rid of. But really, at this point, anything that you don't want to invest time in ripening needs to get cut off. So that includes, in some of these plants, the leading shoots, because plants are still trying to produce flowers and generate more fruit, which we don't want. Any of the bushels of tomatoes that are really small, and anywhere they've been sat on the ground and have been munched, they can all just get cut off. If you're struggling, like I am a little bit, to tear them off, then use secateurs. Everything that's a distraction needs to go. Even see here, they need to go. Can all go. Suddenly I've got so much more space in the garden, and so I'm going to fill this space with some of the seedlings that I've got waiting in the mini greenhouse. I've got some lettuces definitely ready to go out, I think. And if not today, sorry, still trying to weed out all the grass. And if they're not ready to go out today, they will be ready to go out soon. And I will utilise this space under the tomatoes, help keep the weeds down, and just make best use of the space. I've kept some of the tomatoes that I've cut off the bush, off these cordons that are green. They're not going to ripen on the bush. They're too small or too high up to worry about. So I'm just going to take them in green. I have no problems if you're going to cook curries or soups or stews, anything like that, using green tomatoes, I have no problem with. But these I'll leave on the windowsill in the kitchen, and hopefully they will ripen on their own. Okay, here I am about an hour later. This was so much harder a job to do with these bush tomatoes because the bushes all make like an interconnected network of support. So as I'm going through and like, let me just turn the camera on me. As I'm going through and cutting back the leaves, what I'm not realising is that that leaf was supporting another branch which was supporting a truss, and all the trusses are starting to fall, which is why I've ended up harvesting this big pile of green tomatoes. There's so much fruit on the vines left though, I'm not worried. We'll see how much of that ripens naturally between now and the end of September. In the meantime, I will leave out as many of these as I can to ripen. They'll just ripen on their own on a windowsill. But some of the really little ones, like probably one this size and smaller, I will try and pickle. Pickled green tomatoes is one of my favourite things to come out of the garden. Yeah, they're just so delicious. Really good on a salad, really good as like a side. I'm not a big fan of chutneys. I find them too sweet. So yeah, pickled green tomatoes, I highly recommend. Hi, Peanut. Hi. You're going to be in the video this week? Yeah? Ooh. In other news, we've got sweet peas. Hooray! I'm going to put these in the mini greenhouse, and I need to give the mini greenhouse a water, so that is going to be my next job. That's quite a lot of the current to-do list done. Next up is going to be some seed sowing for some successions and early crops for the spring. I ran out of seed compost. Looking around the shed, yeah, I've definitely run out of seed compost. And I used to just be fine with taking general purpose, multi-purpose compost and sieving it for seed sowing, but I have learned over the years that most of the time that doesn't give me the best results. So I am going to hold fire on the seed sowing until I can get to the garden centre and get some more seed compost. I might take you with me. I've got a couple of days off, so whilst that is probably going to be it in the garden for today, I'm going to keep this running as a video and see how much more gardening I get to do over the course of the rest of this week. So I shall say ta-ta for now, and I'll see you hopefully in the next frame. What a difference a couple of days makes. Look at it, it's so beautiful. So I'm here to get some jobs done while the sun is shining. I hope you can hear me. I'm not using the microphone. I often find that it's more trouble than it's worth. Already done, oops, a little bit of weeding, and I'm going to plant out some lettuces. No, you can't come in because you make mischief and cause problems. So you have to stay on the other side of the gate. Ah, poor doggies. I don't know if you can see here, but I planted out a row of pak choi, some mizuna and some komatsuna, and whilst I can sort of still see the little stubs of the plants, they've mostly been eaten, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I give up and plant something else in that space or give it a little bit longer to see if it recovers. I haven't actually got anything particularly that I can put in that space, so I am tempted to just leave it and see what happens. I need to find a home for some of these kale, like this one, if I'm going to have a hope of eating any of it this year. So I'm just trying to figure out where these are going to go. Now I could put them in with all of the other lettuces and things. I'm just a bit worried about attracting. They've always been very attractive to slugs. So I'm wondering if putting them somewhere else is better. And I'm wondering if actually I take a risk and wait to put these out until I have pulled up all the tomato plants and then put these where the tomatoes went. It's a conundrum, and while I figure it out, I'm going to go and pull up all of the sweet pea plants that are definitely now overflowering. Another job I'm going to tick off the list today is to try and fill some soil, topsoil, into this bed. This is in preparation of planting out my garlic in here next month. I'm just going to do this by taking any old bags of compost that I have lying around and just emptying them out into here. I've got quite a few of these ones, and I've got some others at the back of the shed, so I think I should get 4 to 6 bags of compost. We'll see how far that goes. I had a vague plan that I was going to order a ton bag of topsoil to fill this in, but unfortunately the company that I normally use for that isn't delivering at the moment, so I'm just improvising. Definitely don't have enough to waste it. Gosh. See if I can find a bit more cardboard to cover over in these corners and stop the grass coming through. It might seem like I'm trying to not spread this compost around very much, but that's intentional. It's much better to have a small area covered with like a deep layer of compost than to spread that compost around too thickly. For what I'm trying to do here, there are other circumstances where that would be fine. I'm aiming for about 5 centimetres of soil, and that will help suppress any further weeds that are coming up from all of the compost material that I have laid in the bed at the bottom underneath the cardboard. I'm really pleased with that. That has basically cost me nothing to fill this giant bed. These beds are all 2.4 by 1.2 metres square. It's 2.4, 1.2. I filled this over the summer just using any material that I would have otherwise composted or put in the garden waste recycling bin to be taken away by the council. And I've just laid it in the bottom of here to fill the majority of it. And I've covered all of that with cardboard and then topped it off with some soil, as you've just watched me do. And this, in the end, was, I think it was 4 whole bags of compost, 50 litres of bags of compost, and 2 like half bags that were lying around the shed. And that's the only thing that cost me money. The wood didn't cost me money, I recycled it. The majority of the matter underneath didn't cost me anything, none of the cardboard cost me anything. And this is going to be an awesome addition to the growing space for next season. Can't wait to get started with it. And then the rain came back and I wasn't able to do any more gardening. So this is me signing off for another week. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.